Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy holidays.
I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. Don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. All I want for Christmas is you.
The Blab.
Lacy things the wife is missing. Didn't ask for her permission. I'm wearing her clothes, her silk pantyhose, walking around in women's underwear.
And that's the one that every season just gets me overclamped, man.
Does it hit home?
I'm telling you. It does. My high school years, air and time. We'll get to that a little later, I'm thinking. Hey, everybody, it's the Blab for your Christmas season, Thanksgiving past, and I won't give you a date because I don't know when you're listening to this, but welcome. I'm Scott Edward Phelps. Dave Simmons is here with his jingle bells on. Coming up this week on the old show, meet the new virus. Same as the old virus, give or take, kind of, sort of. We'll find out, hopefully not the hard way. She is the mother's milk of needy, and the little lady wins a stick this week. A once-in-a-lifetime career comes to an end. An iconic. And it was ironic. Actually, there's an irony involved. Remind me of that when we talk about him. An iconic musical theater life comes to an end. There's just enough time to zero in on No Time to Die, and you had to know. We were going to look back, and get back, and where it belongs. And a little programming note, out of the ordinary, before we go any further. Immediately following this episode of The Blab on the audio podcast only this week, stay tuned for a very special episode of SEP with SEP. That's me with me. I didn't want to take up the time that this thing is going to take up in the show because it's about 13 minutes. But I just did it with myself, and I think you'll find it interesting. And Dave's on, and they're off.
He said, Dick.
I think you'll find it interesting. It's a guy who posted a story, a fascinating story that I read this week, his grandparents were Jews in Nazi Germany. And it's very timely and topical, and just check it out. It'll be on the audio podcast as you're listening to this now. If you're vidcasters, it won't be there because there ain't no video. But you should check that out. That's right after this when we get done with this. In the meantime, we're all about headlines and fresh stuff. We call it fresh poop. Well, it's reindeer poop this time of year.
The Christmas poop.
Ew.
Dashing through the snow. All right, this is just the semi-timely topical. Just a few minutes ago as we were recording the program for you. Oops, spoiler alert, I gave it away. We record the program sometimes ahead of time. Oh, gosh, I feel busted. Apparently, Dr. Oz is going to run for the Senate in Pennsylvania.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the crowd goes wild.
Red or blue?
Yeah, I didn't. All I saw was the headline. There's a brand new bubonic in town, cats and kitties. More on that momentito. Proud Boys, that proud American group of right-wing nuts, marched on small businesses in the Long Island village of Rockville Center in Nassau County this past weekend. And State Senator Todd Kaminsky, he tweeted, this is what caught my eye. He said, the neo-fascist Proud Boys marched through Rockville Center today close to my office. I think the latest elections emboldened them. I don't remember this happening before. I will not be silent. This hatred has no place. This is not the Nassau I know. That's Nassau County.
Right.
Who else will speak up? And good for you, okay? Because, apparently they were terrorizing. It's one of those, like in the movies where the motorcycle gang shows up in town and starts riding in circles around the citizens and just doing that childish bullshit that they do. The mayor, but this is what tickled me. The mayor of the village of Rockville Center issued a statement, hand to God, said, I don't know who the Proud Boys are, so I decline to comment on the march at this time. So congratulations to the mayor of Rockville Center for being a hip and timely topical guy. And he just
did they do any property damage?
That part, apparently not. Apparently it was one of those let's bully and scare and scream at the old ladies and circle around and be ominous. But, and to me, and this is going to sound strange, not wishing property destruction on anybody, but if they did, at least I could say, well, okay, they're bootleg crazy, and there you go. But they're gutless too. It's just that chicken shit way of here we are waving our faces in your face. Yeah.
Once again, that proves it's the liberals that do the physical damage.
Yeah, there you go. Dave hasn't slept in a couple of nights because he's had some busy stuff and some things. So anything he says, pay no attention whatsoever. He's functioning like this. Here's one for Dave. The Ghislaine Maxwell trial is happening as we speak. Matt, I read this. I believe this. Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Numskull Doorknob there have already submitted a request for her to get the Congressional Gold Medal.
Do you know what? If Joe Biden wanted to be a true American, if he wanted to be a president of the people,
okay,
he would open that trial up to the public.
What does he have to do with that? He doesn't have that jurisdiction.
He mandates shit that he don't have jurisdiction to do every day.
No,
but that's what he should do.
Why? For the prurience of it all?
No, because there's probably half of Washington involved.
Well, and there's the reason why he won't.
I know, but that's the thing that
well,
really,
name any president or politician on any stripe of any color of any party who would be that stupid.
Well, no, yeah, well,
that's what I'm saying. I'm not defending Joe. I'm just saying that's the way. And this one you'll like.
I just did.
This one you'll like. Listen, we got fun stuff to talk about. We don't need to argue about politics today. Tessica Brown, name ring a bell? I didn't know her name. Okay,
I've never even heard a name Tessica.
Yeah, I guess it's a cross between Jessica and
Teddy.
Yeah. She's the Louisiana woman who used Gorilla Glue adhesive spray on her hair because
I think I saw that.
she was out of hairspray. This happened a while back. She was out of hairspray and she used the Gorilla Glue, and then it basically molded to her head and her hair wouldn't move and she couldn't get the glue out. Well, she's back in the news because after all this time, she has done the only thing that today's intelligent young person would do after a dumbass move like that. No, not a reality show.
Sued the company?
No, it's a single release.
Almost went in a panic. When I ran out, I had a problem. I had to use Gorilla Glue just to solve it. I went from silky to solid. Tried to wash it with everything I could think of, but nothing was making progress. I was sobbing with the dude. Couldn't comb my brush, it had me feeling like a fool. I tried to use a shout that was an epic fail too. I washed it like a dozen times, it's super getting through. And my hair, it won't move. My hair, it don't move. My hair, it don't move. My hair, it don't move. My hair, you hear what I'm telling you? It don't move.
I honestly thought she was going to sue Gorilla Glue because they didn't say do not use it on your hair on the label.
Well, there you go again. And and by the way, anybody who wasn't sure, the name of the song is Don't Move.
It don't move.
Kanye's got nothing to worry about. All right, this week's big story. There's so much stuff.
Did you see where Kanye deleted all of his Instagram posts?
No,
he wiped his account for some reason. Nobody knows.
Well, have you seen the Thanksgiving prayer that he issued there?
No.
He wants her back. He basically said, I want you back, baby.
Well, Pete Davidson's got her now, so it's
yeah, that's going to be featured just a little bit later coming up. But let's get this crappy shit out of the way so we can go and have some fun. The big story, we debated which one to do, and the executive producer said, it's really got to be about the bubonic plague, okay?
Oh, the plague is on the world. La 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 la.
Just when you thought it was safe to walk the streets again, there's a new variant of the old COVID. Yeah, we're talking Omicron. Omicron, and bingo was his name. As in, Omicron, Chandler. All right, quick hits. Francis Collins is the director of the National Institute of Health here in the U.S. of A., and he was on Fox News on Sunday, and he had this to say about it.
We do know that this is a variant that has a lot of mutations, like 50 of them, and more than 30 of those in the spike protein, which is the part of the virus that attaches to your human cells if you get infected. That is a new record in terms of the number of mutations. It does make you worry, therefore, that it's a sufficiently different virus that it might not respond as well to protection from the vaccines, but we don't know that. We can certainly see that in South Africa and a few neighboring countries in South part of Africa, this does seem to be spreading quite rapidly. So the inference would be there that it's particularly contagious. We don't know about its severity. Trying to collect that data as quickly as possible.
There you go, for whatever it's worth. And all the major news sources and 63,000 news sites online are hashing and mincing this. We're not going to do that. But I love this because he was on State of the Union on CNN later on after he did Fox News. And he basically repeated what he just said there. But he said something, and I know he didn't mean it necessarily to be a bumper sticker or a slogan, but for me, it sums up the whole thing, everything, not only this, but the whole thing. At the end of his sharing, like he did, what he said was, quote, "I know, America, you're really tired about hearing these things, but the virus is not tired of us."
That's true.
End of sentence. True. And how many times during the COVID snafu over the last year and a half or 2 years have I said, the American arrogance of thinking that they can tell this virus what to do? And we're right back in the same slot again.
Here's the thing that I'm starting to realize. We are going to have to just learn how to live with COVID because it's not going to go away. It's always going to mutate. There's always going to be another strain.
It's like herpes that'll kill you.
Well, it's like the flu. Yeah, it's like the flu. Like every year, the strain of the flu that comes out every year is different.
Right.
So, I mean, we just have to keep developing the vaccines, protecting ourselves the way we can. But locking down is not the answer.
Somebody posted somebody
right?
posted a sampler online the other day that I laughed out loud when I saw it. It said, "What doesn't kill you mutates and tries to kill you again."
That is true.
And yes, and by the way, speaking of that, the Prez of the United States at this time he's already said we don't have to lock down if you get vaccinated and you wear the masks and common sense. And speaking of that, here's what the current resident over at 1600 had to say about this whole new variant thing.
This variant is a cause for concern, not a cause for panic. We have the best vaccine in the world, the best medicines, the best scientists, and we're learning more every single day. And we'll fight this variant with scientific and knowledgeable actions and speed, not chaos and confusion. We have more tools today to fight the variant than we've ever had before, from vaccines to boosters to vaccines for children, 5 years and older, and much more. A year ago, America was floundering against the first variant of COVID. We beat that variant significantly, and then we got hit by a far more powerful threat, the Delta variant. But we took action, and now we're seeing deaths from Delta come down. We'll fight and look, we're going to fight and beat this new variant as well. We're learning more about this new variant every single day. And as we learn more, we're going to share that information with the American people candidly and promptly.
Come on, man.
I like that. I do.
No, that was a good statement.
Well, no, I don't mean that. I mean, when he did that, and I won $5 because I said, Dave's going to laugh at that point. That's $5. But he does that because he went off script, and that's being real. And I'm not defending Joe. And again, I've already gone on record with my feeling about the current presidency and all the things that could be better and blah blah blah. But I wanted to play that soundbite if for no other reason. Kids, because it's been so long we've forgotten how. This is what a grown-up sounds like when he stands at a podium with a presidential seal in front of it and deals with these kinds of things. Whatever comes out of it comes out of it.
Right.
But this is how it's handled. You don't stand... Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to go down that road. But what's the latest? What's this fucking idiot? It's we talked about, for so long we've been talking about this infestation of brain damage. Normal people who seem to have it together just seem to go south when they get involved with Trump directly, or they get exposed to Trumpism directly. Remember who Lara Logan is? She was a commentator correspondent who was on 60 Minutes for a long, long time.
The name rings a bell, but
then
I can't picture
she got canned they found some story that she completely misrepresented and blah, blah. She went her merry way. Well, she's now, guess where she's popped up? Gee, what a shock. She's on Fox News. She's literally said this, and I'm paraphrasing what she said. She's comparing, now that this new thing is going on, with what Fauci has had to say in regard to what's going on. She compared him to Joseph Mengele.
Well, that's not a fair comparison.
It's a ridiculous comparison, but it just once again points out the fact that what you're hearing from reasonable people is this is what needs to happen, whether you agree or disagree, like or dislike, but this sensationalistic, mindless, infantile, moronic bullshit is going to kill more people in the long run, as it already has, frankly. Okay, without getting into 20 minutes of how different would it have been if Donald had taken the approach that Joe is taking, just in terms of let's settle in and see what we need to do about this instead of this bullshit game that we played for the first 6 months or a year with that. But that's, I really don't want to spend a lot of time hashing it.
Right.
Just, there's
he did not handle that well.
No.
Well, I think we talked about it. I think both administrations had sent out mixed messaging. I mean, it seems like Joe's getting his messaging together now, but the transitional messaging was just as bad as the Trump administration.
Well, better late.
If you remember,
Yeah, better late than never.
So
as far as that goes.
No,
All right.
that was a good statement by Joe.
And as far as Laura is concerned, if you want to audition for a Fox News show, then give the guy a blowjob or something. Don't say shit like that.
Stop comparing people to Nazis. There's no comparison.
Well, right after this episode, and I mentioned it before, that's the gist of the SCP thing coming up after that. And it has to do, again, with a guy whose grandparents were in Nazi Germany during the time. And they don't compare Trump to Hitler per se, but they do talk about how authoritarianism suddenly it's not one of those things that somebody flips a switch and you get caught by surprise. It's not like a tornado that just comes down and boom, hits you. It's like a hurricane that you can't quite see unless you're paying attention, but you've got advance notice that it's coming. So that's coming up a little bit later. Here's a new thing, and I just thought we would do this real quick, in and out. Love the old in and out.
He said dick.
Oh, very well, little brother, very well. Little the in and out. Because it's a charitable time of year, and it's all about giving shit away and being happy and all the rest of that. Because it's the season to, instead of just money or time or presents to one another, you should give a little love, a little ho, 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 or just give a little ho.
I love it.
So give a little ho, 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 ho.
All right. And seriously, folk, just by way of giving you a heads up as to things that you might want to be involved in if you want to do something nice for somebody. You got something?
I got something, yes.
All right. Dave's got something. So before he nods off again, let's see what do you got?
I've with the band, with Mike Hines and the Look, we've always been involved with the Food Bank of Delaware. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna give you both food bank locations for Newcastle and for Kent and Sussex.
And by the way, you didn't know this, but I mentioned it, and we'll do this for the next 3 or 4 weeks as we do this before the shows prior to Christmas. We will also get our crack IT folks, our computer geeks.
I'll send it in advance.
We'll put the information on the Blab Facebook page.
Yes. Yeah.
In addition to our telling it to you, so it's like, all right, we'll wait 5 minutes while you go get a pen. There you go.
So the Food Bank of Delaware, the Kent and Sussex locations at 1040 Matland Way in Milford, Delaware, 19963. If you'd like to donate food or money or time, as well as the Food Bank of Delaware, 222 Lake Drive in Newark, Delaware, 19702. Again, food, money, time. We discussed
Keeping in mind, last
yeah.
week we talked about, if you missed the show, we talked about the food bank thing, and the best example was the first example. People like to run in and they like to grab a half a dozen Kraft mac and cheese boxes and send them on their way because they think that's a nice thing to do, and it is. But we're not thinking it through. It's not finished mac and cheese in a box. You got to have butter and milk and oregano and whatever else you put in that thing. Yeah. So just think about that when you're buying something or picking it up. Anyway, but
it's always and like chicken soup, things of that nature are always good because that's a full meal right in a can.
And keeping in mind, cans have to be opened somehow. So provide a can opener or buy the can with the
flip top.
Yeah. Think, McFly. Think. That's what I'm talking about.
Right. So the Food Bank in Delaware, it's a worthy cause. We've been donating time and things to that for years. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I like those. We in the Real Radio days, we did a thing several years running at Thanksgiving time, and it's not uncommon. It's called Stuff the Bus, and we got a city bus loaned to us at the radio station and parked it at like a Walmart or whatever, and had people you can come by, and the goal was to fill the bus. It was an empty bus. To fill the bus with food, and we're very successful.
Nice.
Years. That's a lot. And it's a good feeling. My thing this year, and I'll put this on the Blab, is a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, an attorney, raconteur bon vivant here in the area named John Brady. John's a sweetheart and just a good guy, kind of an icon in the Delaware area.
Well known.
He put up a thing. He was looking for funds. Actually, this started at Thanksgiving time. He's looking for funds for his pet project, which is the Boy Scouts of America.
Boy Scouts.
And that information will be on the, I don't have the information here to give you. Just check the Blab Facebook page or just look it up online. Or go to Facebook and search for John Brady in Delaware. He'd probably make a friend out of it if you'd like to know. And you could do worse than to have a friend like John Brady.
Yeah.
But he's looking for money to give to Boy Scouts. And I think that's cool. Were you a Boy Scout?
I was a Cub Scout. I never made it up to the Boy Scouts.
Because you quit or because you flunked out?
No, actually, because the person around the corner that was the Cub Master or whatever you called him, they stopped doing it.
Troop Master.
So they stopped doing it. So we really didn't.
Yeah, I went all the way into Cub. I was a Cub, and then I went into Boy Scouts, and I wasn't one of those. I didn't have 52 merit badges and other geek shit. There's always some guy screwing up the curve for everybody else.
I think I was. What's the middle one? Weeblo? Is it Weeblo badge?
That's Cub Scouts, isn't it?
Cub Scouts, Weeblo. Yeah, something like that.
I think Weeblos, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, Google Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts and get back to us on that so we can figure out what's going on. But the Boy Scouts of America, and it's one of those things. I posted the link on my regular page and sent it on, and I put my little witty caption. I said, you know what? Any bunch of people that falls on the good guy side of Group Street, as far as I'm concerned, is worth supporting and taking care of that. So in a world where you got Proud Boys terrorizing little old ladies, yeah, let's make the Boy Scouts something. So there you go. Speaking of Dave, hey, are we going to do the Dave beat? Damn right. Are we going to do it in a Christmas motif? Damn right. That shit's going to get old real fast. And we got 4 weeks to go.
I don't know if you heard about this because I did not hear about this. And this is something that we all should be talking about. And it very well could be the biggest event of our lifetime, Scott. On December 18th, the James Webb Space Telescope is scheduled to launch.
Okay.
Have you heard of that?
I have not.
Okay. Well, what this is, it's like the Hubble, only 3 times as large and
much like myself.
Right, and 100 times as powerful.
Much like myself.
And this is something that NASA's been working on for 25 years. And what this is going to enable us to do, we'll be able to see if there's life on exoplanets that we've discovered. And we can also detect whether the atmospheres of those planets have been modified.
Meaning?
Humans. Or
life forms.
Life forms.
Yeah.
We'll also be able to see the first stars and galaxies that created the Big Bang. We could basically, this telescope.
That's the actual Big Bang for those who are confused.
Not the TV show.
Not the TV show.
We'll be able to view the very first galaxies and allow us to witness the birth of our own universe. Wow. Literally, we will be able to look back in time.
I'm curious why there hasn't been more buzz about something like that. And I don't want to lapse into my patented SCP cynicism bullshit so early in the show, but it seems to me, I wonder whether the energy and the enthusiasm and the excitement and the anticipation and all those other things that existed back and I know in my childhood when I was 9 or 10, that was the Mercury astronauts and the first space travel as it was.
And they were going to the moon when I was 5 and 6. So.
Yeah, and this was a big deal, and it was a thing. And I guess, I don't know whether it's because generations have now grown up that there really wasn't anything except the space station, and it's all that, and maybe it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, they need to find out what's going on elsewhere in the universe because, things ain't cooking so cool around this part of the neighborhood.
But no, I could not believe, I stumbled upon that article buried deep. I was on a page and I saw something down at the bottom about it. And I was like,
yeah, what's the date again?
December 18th.
This December 18th?
Yes.
Launching from?
Probably Cape Canaveral, I would think. It's a NASA project. Okay. So isn't that where NASA usually launches?
I believe.
Yeah.
They don't consult me anymore.
Yeah. You're off the payroll?
They don't call. I said, hey, I'm perfectly happy to give you my opinion.
Like a jilted lover.
Well, I could tell you stories. All right. What else?
I don't know if you saw this. Like the drinking game where this world's going.
I know all the drinking games.
This world's gone crazy. They're opening supervised drug injection sites in New York City.
That sounds like old news to me. I heard that a while back. a long time while back.
Well, they're just opening them. They're set to open, I guess.
The goal being to keep the junkies from killing themselves with dirty
overdosing.
needles and overdosing and controlling. You know, that's something that, all right, well, from the tone of your voice, I take it you don't approve.
Well, I mean, if they would make it as easy for cancer patients and diabetes patients.
Well, don't they?
No, it's expensive. It's expensive, and everything's through insurance. You can just walk in off the street at these drug injection sites. And
but is it a safe
and the
center?
methadone clinics?
Is it a safe center to inject, or are they providing the drugs?
They're probably providing.
Well,
I'd have to look.
Let's check that.
But
out.
I do know the methadone clinics provide the methadone.
Well, yeah, but that's okay. But I don't see them giving them people the heroin.
Well, I'm sure
if
they don't have,
it is. Well, I don't know. These are the things. See, these are the little questions that come to mind when these things, so they don't get too far out of hand.
But I'm not for that.
Okay. For giving them the heroin? No, I don't think anybody of their sound mind is actually for that. Unless, of course, the Democrats come up with something that will prevent that from happening, in which case Fox News will be all over that shit saying, well, they should give them the heroin because, that's just how we work these days. That's how it goes.
The two sides of our aisle, they're a mirror image of each other.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
An ass has two cheeks. There's your motto, baby.
I think we got our new T-shirts. An ass has two cheeks.
That's right. You see, I can't help myself. And speaking of that, what a segue this is going to be. Last week, actually, we started up again. We did a holiday theme. We'll do this for the next 3 or 4 weeks. But we're bringing Stick of the Week back, which is our special award for people that just piss us off to the point where we feel like we should single them out. And last week, it was the Drumstick of the Week. Wah, wah. For the next several weeks, well, of course, the Peppermint Stick of the Week.
Way up high in the Christmas tree, I saw one candy cane looking at me. I shook that tree as hard as I could. Down came that candy cane, and it was good. Uh-oh. Ouch! Ow! Ow!
Wow.
All right, the moral of the story is do not eat the candy canes if they have already been unwrapped because you have no way of knowing where they've been.
They have been.
This is what I'm saying. Do you have a stick that you want to
I
offer
actually
up
do
this
have a
week?
stick if you like.
I would be happy to hear your stick.
Our stick is Dr. Fauci.
Oh, see, now there you go.
No. He
mean Dr. Mengele, don't you?
No, I would never compare him. He did a long interview this weekend and on CNN. This is the exact quote. He said, "I represent science. I am science." Yeah, narcissist much? So basically,
maybe he means he's the superhero.
Yeah, well, he actually again stated that we don't fund gain of function research. And then,
okay, there's like 7 people on the planet who know what you're talking about. What is that?
Well, basically, you take a virus and you see how far you can take a virus. Okay. Basically,
how far the virus is willing to go.
Yeah.
Third base.
If you put scientists are like little children, and if you put them in a room with a bunch of science shit, they're going to test the boundaries.
That was my favorite show when I was growing up.
What?
Science shit.
Science shit, yes.
Every Saturday morning.
So that's what gain of function research is, basically.
Okay.
And that's how the coronavirus.
Part of the problem, frankly, with people not understanding, and let's just say our lesser intelligent folk or our less educated folk, and this is just my quick, real personal opinion.
Sure.
Part of the problem with them having trouble accepting these things, besides the fact that they are uneducated and unsophisticated, is that science does itself in with these fucking terms that are geek speak, educated egghead crap.
Right.
Gain of function. I knew what it was, but that's why I jumped in and said, tell people what that is, because that's like, well, what does that mean? Does that mean it gets hard but doesn't get hard because it doesn't function properly? That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's when we did the entire when we did that little segment. It's probably been 6 or 7 shows ago when John Stewart was going on about the gain of function research.
Right.
And he said if there's not an adult in the room that says maybe you shouldn't do that.
Right.
Okay. Well, again, he said we don't fund that. And the NIH stated that we do fund gain of function research. So they both can't be right.
Oh, sure they can.
So, sure they can.
It's politics. It's America.
So They asked him about the coronavirus again, and he doubled down on his initial statement that it came from the wet market, which we all know it came from the building that has the coronavirus.
Well, when I was a
name
kid,
on
the
it.
wet market had an entirely different meaning. I don't mind telling you.
So, Dr. Fauci did a lot of good at the beginning of the pandemic that he created.
Yeah.
That he helped fund.
That's the China virus.
Yes.
Ask Donald.
But, he had a lot. I mean, basically saying I represent science, I am science is very Donald-like. And then when he doubled down on his lie, that's very Donald-like. So maybe
I keep saying, I keep telling you, it's like that flower on that episode of Star Trek that sprayed the spores in people's faces.
Oh, yeah, I remember that
And
one.
it turned Spock into a lover and all that shit. I'm telling you, there's something to be said for that.
But that's why he's the stick of the week, because, you can't just stop lying.
He does represent science in that context. I'll defend him on that point. Now, if he said, I am science.
He did. That was his quote.
Then I think that he probably misspoke. Or, you know what? I don't know. Maybe he is. Do you know for a fact that he's not?
Yes, because Professor Neutron is science.
Oh, it's Professor Proton.
Whatever his name is.
All right. My stick of the week, and it's not political. Get ready for this shocking surprise. Thank you. The croissants are done. You can take them out now. Madonna is accusing Instagram of censorship because they took down a photo that showed her partially exposed nipple. Wow. Yeah, she posted, and she reposted the picture.
I like nipples.
Yeah, they suck. No, wait, I got that backwards. She reposted the pictures, and this is what she said. I'm reposting photographs Instagram took down without warning or notification. The reason they gave my management that does not handle my account was that a small portion of my nipple was exposed. It's still astounding to me that we live in a culture that allows every inch of a woman's body to be shown except a nipple, as if that's the only part of a woman's anatomy that could be sexualized, the nipple that nourishes the baby. Can't a man's nipple be experienced as erotic? And what about a woman's ass, which is never censored anywhere? Giving thanks that I have managed to maintain my sanity through 4 decades of censorship, sexism, ageism, and misogyny, perfectly timed with the lies we've been raised to believe about the Pilgrims peacefully breaking bread with the Native American Indians when they landed on Plymouth Rock. God bless America. Heart emoji, X emoji. Okay. I gave Madonna the stick not because she stepped up and took a stand, but because she did it in that low rent, I don't want to say trailer park because that denigrates nice folks that live in trailer parks. White trash bargain basement kind of crap that she pulls. Really? There, Madonna, Madge, Boobala, sweetheart, the nipple. This is the cause you want to milk.
This is the hill you want to die
wink,
on.
wink. Yeah. But here's where you lost me. I was okay with what you were doing because, if the nipple isn't because of the although we both know that you got your tits hanging out and your nipple showing because you're 60 years old now and you like Trump with tits. You got to have the spotlight. But even that's okay.
Again, I thought Trump was Trump with tits.
Yeah, it is confusing keeping track. But here's where you lost me. Here's where, and I'm trying to prove that I'm not a closed-minded guy. I'm listening to Madonna whining about her nipple not being allowed on Instagram, and I'm thinking, okay, the misogyny and then all of a sudden, you take that left turn and you're talking about pilgrims and Native American Indians, as opposed to different kinds of Indians, I suppose, and Plymouth Rock. Let me explain something to you, sweetheart. That kind of yammering, mindless, weird, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about one minute and you're talking about something else in the next minute, that does not make you Rosa Parks there, pumpkin, okay? That makes you a Trump. You know what I'm saying? That's all. So you get the other peppermint stick of the week. Let's do some rim shots.
Okay, that's enough for this week.
Ba-dum-bum. We mentioned that, I think Dave and I were talking about it earlier. If you haven't heard, Kanye did he posted a prayer on his whatever.
Was it, you said Thanksgiving prayer?
At Thanksgiving time, yeah. And he went on this thing about, he's repenting his it's a long story, but and that's not part of the rim shot. I'm only giving you that
Did
by
it go,
way of context.
Dear Jesus and baby Jesus.
That's right. or as you know, baby Jesus. We thank you so much for this bountiful harvest of Taco Bell. He wants her back, and I'm not going to get into that. Just look it up. That's where he's at. But Pete Davidson from Saturday Night Live is now officially dating Kim, and they were seen out to dinner last week, and he had a large hickey on his neck. So, where's the rim shot there, you ax? Well, I'm glad you axed. It now becomes fair game for any of us and all of us, and frequently we will say that we have photographic proof that Kim Kardashian sucks. All right, speaking of
Pete Davidson.
Yeah. You know what? Well, at least that people are not going to like this. At least he's a white guy. It's nice to see that they've managed, one of them has managed. I know, if only for the sake of breaking the sensation that they just weren't going to ever have any kind of relationship with white people. And I don't care one way or the other.
Right.
Okay? I don't.
Right.
But anyway, speaking of COVID, the new variant, Omicron, E-I-E-I-O, has sent the infection numbers back up around the world. Looks like we're going to get a surge. So given this time of the year, and I wrote this joke myself, so this is pretty good.
There you go.
Elf on the Shelf will be replaced this season with anti-vaccinator on the respirator. All right, speaking of the orange idiot, he was given an honorary 9th degree black belt in Taekwondo at Marla Ego. Yeah, my mama's got a 9th degree black belt in Taekwondo, but at least now you know how they tie that big red bow around the Lexus in those holiday commercials. And Dave's going to like this one because this is very special for Dave Rimshot to sum it all up. Someone is leaving pictures of penises at various Disney resort hotels.
Nice. He said dick.
No, I said penises. One was found in August at the Art of Animation Resort, for those of you who frequent Disney World, and another one last month at the Fort Wilderness Resort. And all of us here at the Blab thoroughly applaud Dave's generosity, but when tipping the maids, they prefer cash.
Now,
I thought you gave all those pictures.
You're savvy. You're like computer savvy, right?
Well, yeah.
Is there any penis recognition software?
Well, my second wife was pretty good at it, but that's, you know.
I guess that's the only way you're going to catch him.
Not in the day. Yeah. I thought you'd given all those pictures away by now. He used to give them away at the shows.
Yes.
And my kind said, no. We put them in the program maybe.
Well, Thanksgiving, I would make a little turkey out of it with the gobble. Never mind.
Which brings us to gobble, which brings us to, all right, now it's time to do something really weird. It's time for Dave and I to actually spend, 10, 15 minutes, hell, maybe the rest of the damn show, talking about shit we actually know something about. It's time for Christmas Tune Talk.
Want something peppy, something happy, something up-tempo, something snappy.
1, 2, 3, 5! Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose.
Thank you very much. I hope we passed it on the test. And actually, let me throw this graphic up for the vidcast, folks. If you can't see it, it's got the 4 montage thing here because the name of the episode this week is, good alliteration, here we go, Beatles, Bond, Broadway, Bennett, and the new Bubonic, which, of course, is Omicron, which actually, somebody did a wonderful meme. It's got our boy screaming up, Omicron! But I thought 4 major things we talk about, and we ran a little longer than I figured we would with politics, but it always happens that way, so we're going to kind of semi-hit it and quit it and then hit it. And this is the thing. First of all, Tony Bennett and Gaga, the concert. Did you happen to see it?
Did not see that.
You should see it. It's only an hour long, and with commercials, it's like 32 minutes. It was delightful, very, as you imagine, poignant. He's 95. It's his last concert.
Yeah.
He stood at the piano and stayed there because they brought him out. But she did a bit of a segment on her own, and then they closed the curtains, and then they came back and opened up, and there he was, and then she came back out, and it was lovely. I like her. I've always liked her from the get-go. Well, not only that, she's a class act, as goofy as she is and as weird as she is, but that's talent. And she couldn't admire or respect this guy anymore.
Oh, I know.
And it's so evident in this particular program. Now, that said, very quickly, since you haven't seen it, we'll move on to the next thing, and we can talk about it next time if you want. I want to say this because even my wife pointed it out. I didn't say anything. I saw it and I just let it go. But my wife said something to me. And so I said, that's okay. Then it's fair game. She can sing anything.
Yes.
She's amazing and a real singer, not just, okay. He was standing at the piano, holding on to the piano because he's 95 years old. Okay, God love him. And I respect that. She was moving. Not all the time, but she was dressed in the flowery gowns and the classy stuff. But she was moving. But she was moving. She was jiving. And in her own segment especially. I don't think there's an equal in the current contemporary entertainment business, and maybe for many years gone by, that can match what Gaga is capable of doing when it comes to singing. She's just world class as a dancer. And I want you to watch it, or at least watch a chunk of it, and tell me that I'm not just being mean-spirited.
Elaine Bennett.
Yeah,
there you go.
My wife turned to me and said, "Are you thinking Elaine?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah."
That's funny.
And bless her heart, because it was really a sweet.
That is funny.
A wonderful performance by her and him, and she's checked that out. All right. On a lighter note, Stephen Sondheim is dead.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said earlier when we talked about irony. The irony is, a Christmas Day, the Steven Spielberg redo of West Side Story will appear. The reviews are great. They're saying that and Sondheim himself saw a screening of it and did that. I haven't gotten any more than that. And if you don't understand why the irony is, that West Side Story, he was the composer of the music for West Side Story. Leonard Bernstein, who was a very famous conductor back in the day, wrote the lyrics for the songs. But that was Sondheim's first major thing. That was the play was, I think, 57, 58, and the movie came out in 61. And now it's being redone, and he loved it. And it's just, this guy, if you do know who Stephen Sondheim was, no words are necessary. If you don't know and you like music at all, Google the guy, and you're going to be amazed.
Tony winner, Oscar winner. He's
but the diversity of the material. Okay, one of my favorite, and I never liked it. I liked it okay, and all the versions been done 100 times. But my favorite version of this particular play, and Sondheim wrote the whole. He wrote the music, the lyrics, the whole schmear. And I loved it. Liked it okay, but really loved it when I saw the Tim Burton movie version of Sweeney Todd.
Sweeney Todd, yes.
That's Stephen Sondheim who wrote those songs, okay? And Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter, and they just knocked it out of the park. That's a fun one. So, 91 years old.
Yeah.
So, I felt okay when, you got Tony Bennett, who's 95 and still kicking. You got Sondheim, who passed away at 91. And I breathed a little easier this week because nobody particularly famous died at the age of 70.
Life well lived.
I'm thinking. Yeah. There you go. All right, I included the Bond thing is because we talked about the movie No Time to Die. Oh, by the way, No Time to Die, of course, is the last Daniel Craig movie. It's the current Bond film in circulation. And if you've been on the planet Venus or something, you may remember it. Oh, there's Daniel Craig calling in to say hello. You may remember it from last week during our Thanksgiving program when we offered up our acclaimed Billie Eilish montage featuring her latest hit, the Bond theme, and... yeah, her Christmas song, and, yeah.
I'm not coming home. It's just no time to die. Yeah, I'm not coming home for Christmas.
And the gobbles left over from last week because we paid for every damn gobble.
Well, we can't possibly eat all the turkey. You got to have leftovers.
You know what? This year... we had dinner up the street there at the kids' house. Let her cook. Everything that was left over, because you put together the plates. That's really the point of Thanksgiving anyway. Gratitude, family, blah, blah, blah. It's really about putting those plates together afterwards to be able to eat for the next 6 days. Well, everything on the planet was in abundance and able and ready to take, except there was no turkey left. What the hell? I said quietly to myself, wanting to be,
gobble, gobble.
All right. All right. So we have, I'm trying to clock this because I know this will be something we're going to talk about a little long. We got about 15 minutes, but let's do like 8-9 minutes of this. Let's talk about Get Back.
Oh yeah. Have you watched all 3 parts?
I have.
I have too.
I have.
Yeah.
So we can and let me just give you my points and then real quick. And then you can, we can banter about it. After part 1, and I remember posting on Facebook, and a friend of mine called me on it, and he was right in the long run. I got a little impatient with part 1, and it's my burden because I'm pretty good with the ADD. I got the ADD. This is not if you haven't seen it or any of it, this is not your standard music documentary, and there are long segments in this movie. Well, it's 3 parts, and each of the parts is 2+ hours.
Yes.
So think about watching a movie that's 8 hours long, cut up into 2.5-hour segments. But there are segments in part 1 especially, where for 20 minutes they're sitting there talking about a guitar chord that they want to use in the song, and then playing a song, and then screwing around, smoking, running around, talking, making jokes with each other, and then sitting down and talking for another 5 minutes about the guitar chord. And at some point, I'm like, okay. And most of my friends and colleagues who are of that, ilk, they were all praising it, saying, this is remarkable. And I agree with this. If you're not a creative person and you've never experienced the creative process, or you've never been a creative person and been in that climate, like a songwriter or doing a songwriter session or a musician putting something together, you don't know what happens. And this really does show you what happens. Mm-hmm. It's just, and their thing was, by this time they had been working together for so long, but it was just, I got a little bored. I got a little restless. And I thought, God, I don't know whether I can go through 4.5 more hours of this. But I hung in there because, I hung in there. And I'm glad I did. And a friend of mine called me on it. He said, well, you know what? He says, I understand what you're talking about, and I feel the same way too, except this. He said, you know what wasn't there that made all that worthwhile? And I said, what? He goes, the Talking Heads. I said, you mean the band? He goes, no, you know what I'm talking about. Every documentary like that is always 2 minutes of the band and their history, and he said, either Don Was or Linda Perry. And if you're a musician or people, you know what I'm talking about, telling us how great they thought that act was. Right. He goes, there wasn't any of that. And if it was direct people like themselves or, their immediate, et cetera. So for that. But what I realized, if I had to put a word on the whole thing, it's the first time that everybody who watches it and knows anything about the Beatles, and especially those of us who've grown up with all that, it's the first time they've ever been humanized.
Yes.
Okay. A lot of the misconceptions about them as individuals and misconceptions about them as a group and their satellite entourage wives, et cetera, dispelled.
Yes.
You see, Yoko
did not break the Beatles up.
But Yoko didn't interfere.
Unless sitting there reading her mail broke the Beatles up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there was, one of the scenes, I don't remember which of the segments, but it doesn't matter. At some point, she and Linda McCartney, she and Paul had just gotten married about the time that this thing was done. Were sitting in the background, and Yoko was holding up some scarf or something with knitting needles. They were two wives talking about knitting. They didn't interfere. They didn't get in the way. It was human. The kids came and went. The little kids came and went. It's just, they were very human. That said, and this is no surprise to anybody who knows the Beatles was almost from the beginning, maybe a year and a half in of the Beatlemania thing, but by about 1966, the Beatles was really the Paul McCartney show. Because by that I mean, if you watch the interaction, the body language, and this was in 1969 when all this footage was taken, they all defer to him, not in terms of whatever he wants, whenever he wants it, but it's very clear that, and this is what I said I think I said this to my wife, I said, what I'm reading on this, and I grew up, this was my band.
Right.
Okay. I was 13 when the Beatles came to America, and I got my first guitar because of them. So I know a lot of Beatles shit. It's like they didn't, well, I think that if McCartney hadn't been what McCartney was, the Beatles, as they were known, the Beatles, would have ended sometime around early 1967. Okay?
Not long after Epstein died.
67.
Yeah.
Because they all three, to varying degrees, were involved, but it was McCartney's life.
Right.
It was the center of his universe. It was his reason for getting up in the morning. And he was always the one, and you see this in the documentary, always pulling them in the direction of, well, we're going to do this and let's do that. And they sit around a lot, they smoke a lot, they eat a lot, they drink a lot, they carry on, and they just screw around, et cetera, et cetera. But McCartney's almost always the one who says, okay, lads, we really need to get back to this. You get the feeling that had he not been there, Ringo and George and John would have just...
Well, George actually left. But,
right.
Yeah, but the thing that really... George shined in this documentary, in my opinion. George really shined.
People didn't know him. They haven't known him because he was always in the shadow of John Lennon and Paul McCartney, and to a certain extent, even up until now, the opportunity to see him on an equal playing field with the other guys.
And if you remember, this came right. This was a few months after they completed the White Album sessions,
right,
in which George had offered up While My Guitar Gently Weeps. I mean, so he was writing on par with John and Paul at that particular point in time, and then surpassed them in Abbey Road with Something and Here Comes the Sun.
Lennon even said at the time Abbey Road came out to some interviewer that he thought that that was the best song on the album.
Yeah.
For them to say that. But you know what? It was never as much about John in that thing as it was Paul.
Paul, right.
But that also said, there's a charming segment in one of the parts where I think it's after George has walked out because he's had enough. They don't have film footage, so they just put up a background picture, and then they show you the audio.
Well, there's a microphone in the plant.
But they don't. John and Paul don't realize they're being recorded, and they're having a conversation about essentially they're evaluating and fessing up to each other how shitty they've been to George.
Right. It's our fault he left,
and we need to fix this because we love him and he's good and da 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 blah blah blah. They weren't, and for all of McCartney's needing to be the center of the spotlight, even he was of a mind to know.
Right.
What he knew. And that's that's what I mean when I say they were humanized.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're all good people.
Flaws and all. Yeah.
Good friends. And they were brothers.
Yeah. And the original cut of the Let It Be movie, the hour and 45-minute cut that was released in 1970, 72
yeah, it was,
or something.
It was actually earlier, 70, 71.
It's 70, 71. When it was released, the director guided that like the Beatles were at each other's throats. It was the end of the band. That's what the general feeling.
Well, he was playing. I'm not defending him because he's in this footage a lot, and John Lennon makes fun of him a lot. Although the guy doesn't seem to be bright enough to realize that he's being made fun of all the time. But it's not outright ridicule. But and I'm not defending him, but I'm assessing because of what I remember. I was 20 at the time. That was the atmosphere around the group. That conflict, the dark, the arguing, which you see some of.
You see a little bit of, but
well, there's a famous scene for Beatle freaks, for other people who don't really care about anything other than the thing. It's not a thing, but where George is trying to figure out what he wants to play on the thing, and Paul says something, and they're sitting there facing each other, and George says something to the effect of, I'm paraphrasing. He says, "Look, I'll play whatever you want me to play, or I won't play. If you don't want me to play, just tell me what you want me to play." He's essentially saying, get off my ass.
No, he said, tell me what will make you happy.
Tell me what will make you happy. Now, that's in the original Let It Be movie, and that was the direction that Michael Lindsay Hogg is the earlier director. That was the direction of the whole movie that he took, was that conflict, that tenseness, that It's 10 seconds in an 8-hour movie in this one.
Right.
And you see them for what they really were. They were 4 guys who grew up together. They loved each other. They were like brothers in the best sense, and in the sense that brothers fight and da-da-da. And that's what makes it charming and worth sitting there listening to them play the same song 62 times.
Well, you know what actually blew my mind is almost the entire Abbey Road album. They had those songs. They were actively working on those songs during the Let It Be session.
Right.
I mean, you heard George was playing something. He didn't have all the words, but he would say something. He was playing that for them.
Right.
I mean, She's So Heavy. I Wonder, She's So Heavy.
Yeah.
Maxwell Silver Hammer. She Came In Through the Bathroom Window. I mean, I could go on and on. It's just about the entire album. They were kicking around then.
As indicative in that example too, there's a moment, and I read a version of this relayed, and I saw it myself in the doc, but it was this article talking about the documentary. Ringo was killing some time, and he was standing at the piano, and he started playing the opening riff to Octopus's Garden, and all he had was, I'd like to be under the sea in an octopus's garden in the shade. And he played it kind of to them at them. He wasn't auditioning it for them or submitting it, but he was just playing as they were all walking around. And John and Paul kind of like, yeah, that's cute. And
George got up,
but
and
George took his guitar on and walked over and stood next to Ringo and helped him and started working on it. And I said, see, that says a lot about
George,
the personalities, and about George. Yeah.
Which, by the way, yesterday was the 20th anniversary of his death.
You know, I turned to the wife at one point when we were watching the doc, and I said, you know, one of my gray hair moments, and I said, you know, and I said, I observed that shit. I'm aware of it. I'm trying to be maudlin about it. I said, but it's one thing when somebody gets to an age, say Ringo's 80 now. McCartney will be 80 in the coming new year. So time marches on. But I thought, just for whatever reason, George said something and it triggered something, and I realized, because his anniversary just passed. George Harrison has been dead 20 years. John Lennon has been dead 40 years.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling young, you're not.
But I gave it an A+. If you're a Beatles fan, it was a good documentary. If you're a Beatles fan and you're a musician, right, it was everything. It was everything, right, to me. Right. You know what I mean? You saw the creative process. You saw the give and take between John and Paul. You saw, George putting his input in, being ignored, but he kept at it until they did some of the things he wanted. He had to be the most persistent bastard in the world.
Well, and karma being what it is, it's not mentioned in any way in the thing, in the documentary itself, but it is a somewhat known Beatle fact among Beatle fans, but I'm going to share it with you right now. Karma can be fun. George Harrison was the first Beatle to have a #1 record as a solo artist after they had all gone their separate ways with My Sweet Lord in 1970. So, yeah, he was doing okay.
And then he wrote like Photograph for Ringo's album. And I mean, they all continued to help Ringo because I saw an interview with John that he said, I'm worried about Ringo. He said, I'm not worried about Paul and George. I know they can make it on their own. All three of them worked on Ringo's first solo album, which yielded 3 top 10 hits. She's 16. She's beautiful. She's mine.
Yep.
Oh, my.
Yep.
And what's the third one? Oh, Photograph.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, as Ebert and Siskel and Ebert and whoever Ebert were teamed up before he died too, we give it 2 thumbs up.
Yes, 2 thumbs up.
Or if we had 6 thumbs, we'd give it 6 thumbs up. And not to be hysterical or fan geeky, but it's just that kind of. But again, if you got to be in it for the long haul, because there are times it's like a novel that's 700 pages.
Yeah,
it's not a quick read. Okay, it's not a James Patterson airport novel that you're going to breeze through in like 20 pages.
And the payoff is great. The rooftop concert is amazing.
Well, my ADD started to creep back at me during that because after about the 4th time I heard...
Get back.
And the 4th time I heard Don't Let Me Down.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the strongest of the Beatles material in my estimation.
Well, the funny thing is, I didn't realize because I knew a lot about the Let It Be sessions. I didn't realize they put a camera on the rooftop of another building.
No, I didn't know that either.
They put cameras in the lobby. They put they had people questioning people out on the streets. I didn't know all that. Yeah. I thought they just went upstairs and played.
Well, we saw what we were shown.
Right.
Which is also the tone of it. 50 years ago, we were shown a movie about 4 guys who were getting ready to beat the shit out of each other because they had just had enough. And there was a little of that going on too. But they were just tired of being the Beatles.
Exactly.
So 2 thumbs up, 3 thumbs up.
Yes, most definitely.
All right. I'm cutting out like this. I'm cutting out that because we're at the point where, and what we're going to do though is this. I'm going to throw this in because I told Dave we're going to do it, and I don't want to say, hey, we're going to do it. We're not. And we'll catch. There's nothing here. Most of the rest of the shit, I was going to do a political rant. Don't forget, I mentioned after this episode ends on the audio podcast, there's an SCP with SCP. Just hang in. It's 10 or 12 minutes, but I think you'll find it interesting and worth listening to. But in the spirit of the holidays, yes, it's that time of year. It's become a tradition on the Blab. At some point, I'm sure it'll get creepy and perverted. Not this week, but he didn't have a lot of notice, and he didn't have a lot of sleep. It's time for Uncle Dave's Holiday Hearth.
Stand next to your fire. Hey, let me stand next to your fire.
Well, bring it home, buddy. What do you got?
Scott, when I was researching, trying to find a story at the last minute, I could not find a feel-good Christmas story, but I found a fascinating Christmas fact that I never knew, couldn't even imagine would be real.
Well, I'm all a titter now.
Do you know what the traditional Christmas dinner in Japan is?
Chimichangas.
No.
Or Jimmy Hoffa.
No.
Jimmy's Johnson. No, obviously I don't.
KFC.
No.
I shit you not.
Extra crispy?
They didn't say that, but
that would be okay.
This is what happened. Years ago, a Western tourist found himself in Japan with nothing to eat on Christmas that he recognized.
Okay.
So he went to a KFC that had just opened. And he mentioned to an employee, you know, I'm not from here. You know, I need some chicken for Christmas.
Sure.
That employee mentioned it to a manager.
Which, by the way, is one of those Hallmark card movies on Lifetime. Chicken for Christmas. Check it out.
That employee mentioned it to the manager that was on duty. That manager messaged it to one of the higher ups. And it got high enough that KFC Japan decided to capitalize on this marketing.
Okay.
And they started heavily marketing at Christmas time as your Christmas, get your KFC Christmas dinner. So it became so popular that now people pre-order and stand in line to get their KFC Christmas dinner.
I have only one question. You can probably guess if you gave it along, but we don't have time for you to spend thinking about it. So I'll just ask the question straight up.
Original or crispy?
Do they market it as, wait for it, and don't email me. Do they market it as finger rickin' good?
Well, apparently, it started, like I said, they started TV commercials.
Sure.
So now it's the thing. And I guess like here, you know, we go out for sushi. That's just something it's a treat for us. Right. I guess that's like, they have sushi every
it's
day.
like the old joke. What do they call Japanese food in Japan? You know, food.
Yeah.
You don't get Chinese food in China. You go get food.
No, you get Chinese food in Japan.
Oh, in China. Yeah, okay. Which one of us hasn't had any sleep? But, okay, well, thanks, Uncle Dave. That was real heartwarming.
Well, did you find that fascinating?
I did, and I didn't know that, which now brings us down to a total of 16 things that I don't know. Hopefully next week we'll work on that. All right, next week, there's a whole bunch of stuff. I'm real scrolling through to see if there's anything I need to say for next week I can tease you with. Nope, don't care. Nope, don't care. Nope, don't care. I will tell you this. You've seen it in the news, and I've got it right here, but again, we got to go. Maybe I'll bring it up again next week. Remind me if you feel like talking about it. There's been a fair amount of talk about Matthew McConaughey running for governor of Texas. Because polling out there, believe it or not, Beto O'Rourke has announced, we mentioned that last week, polling has said that Greg Abbott, who's the current governor, the Trumpist, what's his name, Beto O'Rourke, and Matthew McConaughey, of the three, when they're polled together, McConaughey beats both of them.
Well, yeah, he's got the name
He's not running. Spoiler alert.
Right.
He issued a little video. I got the audio, but we got to go. So if that's not a big deal, but I wanted to make a point with him. Maybe I'll do that next week. Other than that, we will be doing fun Christmas stuff. Don't forget, we'll put the information about the charities we talked about, organizations we talked about on the Blab page. It'll be there by, no later than like mid-morning tomorrow. And
definitely tune in the 22nd of December for our Christmas special.
That's right.
A Blab musical Christmas.
That's right. As we avoid the mute button, the factory muting with all the nature that we have. All right. And I would ask if there's anything else, but frankly, dear, we don't have time. We got to go. I want to make sure I do this right. I'm so confused now. Who put this shit together? All right. We'll be back next week with more of the holiday fragrance of the Blab.
When I come home to you, San Francisco, your golden sun will shine for me.
The Blab.